And at this time, I'm thinking, God, I can't do this. I'm on my way to kill myself. You're asking me to start this organization of stuff I don't know. Number one, I don't know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any of these skills to do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt a sense of peace come over me that I'd never felt in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Never. I mean, I went from bawling to crying to a sense of euphoria, and that just ran through my body.
Yeah.
And I asked God to accept me, and I asked forgiveness for my sins.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood up, and I have never been the same since.
Mm-hmm.
I have never been the same since. The thought of killing myself was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was it gone, it was so far out of my mind. This mission that he put me on, I was going to do anything I can to follow that out. And it hasn't been easy, because again, I didn't feel like I was prepared for this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think, surely you can't be talking to me,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what our God does. He uses broken people. He is a redeemer.
Mm-hmm. Hi, everyone. It's Christina and Daniel Deffenbaugh with 1042 Project, and welcome to episode 6 of Shared Voices podcast. We're glad to have you, and we're ready to just jump right back into Daniel's story. So we just covered basically the part where we got to the very beginning of our relationship, essentially, and Daniel starting to open up. But there's a story that we want to share with you really quick that happened before we were like officially in a relationship together. But it was an important seed that was planted that'll show up later. So we definitely want to include it. But it was while we were working together, and it was like I wasn't even talking directly to you. I was talking to a different coworker, but I was using my phone, and you saw that I had the Bible app on my phone. And I remember you pointing to it and saying, "Oh, I have that app too." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And I was very, like 5 brownie points, like, okay, that's good. Like, I'm still like learning about you, but tell me what you were thinking at that time when you were like, "Oh, I have that app."
Well, for starters, I didn't have the app.
Yeah.
I just liked you. And then when I saw you had the Bible app on your phone, I thought, I don't know. I just said I have that, and I didn't. So once I had told you that, I don't know if you remember, I kind of bolted to my office.
Yeah, you left very abruptly after that. I do remember
went
that.
to my office.
I just thought you had work to do.
And found the app and downloaded it. And it's called YouVersion Bible app. And this app will show itself in the near future here as we go through my story. So it's kind of a seed that was planted that ended up becoming very useful at one of my darkest, most needy times. That Bible app from Life Church, YouVersion Bible app, helped change my life. And
So you downloaded it on your phone, but
never looked at it.
Right, you didn't look at it. So, but it was there.
Yeah, it was there. I just never used it. So I just had it on the phone, and that way, if you ever saw my phone open, you would see the app. I liked you. I was trying to impress you. And probably not Lion's probably not the best way to go about it. But remember, I'm still not even a Christian at this point. So forgive me for my sinful tastes.
Hey, I mean, it worked out for the better. So at least there's that. But then fast forward a little bit to when we were dating and we started visiting churches together and trying to find a church home, because that was very important to me. So I do want to ask, was that actually important to you at that time, or what was going on inside of Daniel? I'm going
to tell people this. She doesn't tell me the questions ahead of time.
Oh yeah, he's completely surprised.
so
but then we get the raw answers.
Yeah, I know why you do what you do. Or she'll tell me the questions, but leave like half of them out, and just anyway. Ask me the question again.
We're here for the reaction. No, so like when we were like trying out churches and stuff, what were you thinking and feeling at the time? You know what I mean? Like, because I know it was a priority for me, and I was really invested in it. Do you feel like also invested, or were you like faking it for a while?
I was just going through the motions. I mean, honestly, I say that I was going through the motions, but at the same time, I had been to church in the past. I wasn't like, this is the first time I've heard the name Jesus Christ. It just, I grew up in a Christian family. I went through the motions through that as well. You know, as a kid, you go to church, your mom takes you, you go through it. But throughout my life, I'd always believed in God, but I guess I didn't realize that you could have a relationship with him or that he truly loved us unconditionally or anything like that. And I'm losing my train of thought. Help me.
You were just talking about kind of your experience of when we were exploring churches, and I know at that point in your time, in your story, you described like you were feeling more hopeful, you know, than you had before. You did feel like things were getting better and you were trying to change the direction of your life, but you had stated at one point that it wasn't for the right reasons. So can you elaborate a little? What reasons were they at the time?
Well, at the time, it was just going through the motions and honestly trying to make you happy. And I knew that finding a church is important to you. But there was a tug on me that I just knew I was supposed to be there. So it wasn't just like I was just showing up to impress you.
You totally followed through. I mean, you were very active in like, where should we go visit? And you know what I mean? Like you were engaged in it.
Right. But at that church, you know, I'm just looking for a church for us to go to. I'm not thinking that there's going to be anything that comes out of it, honestly.
Yeah.
I just figured it's going to be a place that we would drag ourselves to every Sunday and then find excuses to skip from week to week. But anyway.
Yeah, because that's what you'd always done before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was always Jesus. God was always in case of emergency, break glass Jesus, right? If you picture like a fire hydrant behind glass, like, you only break that glass for in case of an emergency, and that's what I used God for. Is I get myself into pickles because of my own decisions, and then run to Him like, please put this fire out for me. And then usually He would call me and give me peace. I can see now looking back, but once He did, then I went right back to what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, thanks a lot, man. Deuces, see ya.
Thanks for the favor.
Right, but again, didn't know that I truly believed at that time.
Yeah.
So. I download the Bible app and then we start exploring churches and
really, I think that we just are kind of in this, this place where we're exploring these things, right? But it's not come to a point where it's become real for you. You know, it's just, you know, not really addressing much, just doing life. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like you'd said, going through the motions, you know, this is what we do. We're going to work and we're going to go to church and, you know what I mean? Just things like that. But, you know, the heart wasn't in it yet, I guess.
Right.
So to speak.
By this time, I'm still an alcoholic. I'm no longer on pain pills. Those are in the past, not of my choosing. I'm so glad it happened, but the doctor I was going to is no longer practicing anymore. I think it had a lot to do with the amount of prescription pills.
Yeah. But by the time we were in a relationship, you were drinking a lot less. Yeah. Because that would have been a huge trigger for me.
Right. I'm drinking a lot less by that point.
Yeah.
And, but I still don't feel like I have a purpose or anything like that. So you and I are just going to church every once in a while and doing that, but I don't feel anything happening inside of me really.
Just kind of muddling through.
Until
June 13th of 2020. And additional detail, June 13th is Daniel's birthday.
Yeah.
And I had arranged for Daniel and I and all of our kids to go to this lake that was kind of a special place for Daniel, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
A comfortable, fun place. It was a place of positive experiences.
Yeah.
And we spent the day there with the kids, fishing. It was just like a great day. It really
awesome.
was. It was perfect.
It was absolutely perfect. And that's why what happened later just didn't seem to make sense.
Yeah.
But during this time now we're into 2020.
Yes.
And so just to give some context to this, the race riots or the riots against police, whatever you want to call them, where they're burning the cities down and cop cars are burning and police are being attacked. And at this time, I am literally going to work and coming home and watching the news.
Yes, you would watch the news almost all day, every day.
All the time. Yeah. And watch what was happening to our fellow first responders. And I would just sit there and build up anger inside.
Yeah.
And anxiousness. And it would and there was nothing I could do. I wasn't a police officer anymore. There was nothing I could do to help. So that sense of hopelessness of not being able to get out there and help in some way or fashion was just eating me apart.
Yeah. That was really a really challenging thing for you.
It was. So we had got home from the lake that day, having a beautiful day. And when we got home, we were laying in bed and we were watching a show on Netflix. And you got to finally experience you got to finally experience what it was like for me to go through an episode. I always call them episodes when I go through those.
Yeah.
And maybe you can explain it from your end.
Yeah, that was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. I was quite taken aback and caught off guard because the initial thing that I remember, you had commented on not feeling well. Your heart was kind of bothering you, your chest was bothering you. But then where it really took a turn was your body started convulsing, like you were shaking beyond your control. And I had not seen that before. And I could tell by looking at him, this was quite out of his control. And he was very scared. And he was shaking substantially.
Flopping, basically.
Yeah, it was a lot. And then we were just kind of, I think, shook for a little bit. And then your face went ghost white. I had never seen your color change like that before. And you looked at me in just the terror that was washed over your face.
Yeah, I thought I was dying.
Unspeakable. Yeah.
But this wasn't the first time. I've had these for years and years and years, several times over and over. This was just the first time I got to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you had said, like, it's my heart. It's my heart. I feel like I'm going to die. I called 911. And then they sent the ambulance to our house. And even just like those moments in probably just a couple of minutes feel like hours, when you're waiting, and you were terrified. I was terrified. You're convinced that you are dying in this moment. Like you're having a heart attack, you're dying, and there's nothing I can do. And you're still shaking and convulsing. You have no color. And I was just terrified and helpless and confused and scared. As were you, and then the paramedics get there, and it was interesting. Now I know, but we didn't know then that, you still, especially based on your past experiences, you still thought that this was your heart and nothing aside from that. But I mean it when I tell you, this man stood up and ran to the ambulance.
Like, I don't even remember any of that.
You darted. And so at that time, it was just like, I don't know. I didn't put much weight to that because I saw what was going on right before. But then, you get to the emergency room, we get there and they do the tests and whatever, and then end up saying, like, they were gently trying to let you know, it's not your heart. It's not your heart. Yes. This is a panic attack. And that was really hard for you,
Well, I'd been there several times for it, and generally they had always said heart. So this is one of the first times where they said what it was. They called it what it was right away. Normally it's day or two in the hospital of testing.
Right.
They figured it out like that.
But I do want to share, because you had experience after experience of them thinking it was your heart. And so in a sense, you felt like you were receiving treatment right away because they were taking actions as if it was your heart. But then being in a place where they recognized that it was not your heart and that it was a panic attack, they weren't taking the same actions.
I got irritated.
That was very hard for you. Yeah, because you were like, they do something every other time they did something, they addressed it, they took care of it,
I was being the doctor, wasn't I, telling them how they should treat me? Because I was going by how everybody else treated me at every other hospital.
I think really it was fear. I think it was just the fear coming out because you knew how you felt. And for anybody who's not had a panic attack, you really do feel like you're dying. It is quite terrifying. It's a very hard place to be in, especially when it escalates to that point. And then imagine all of this, and that's going on the moment you find out for the first time that it's not a heart issue. Like this feeling is a panic attack, and we're not going to treat it the way that it's been treated for you all the other times.
Yeah.
That was a hard pill for you to swallow. And I think really because they were telling you like, you're actually healthy, you're actually okay. And you were like, no. I remember you saying to them, look at me, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. This is not okay.
See, I don't remember hardly any of the hospital visit on that one.
I believe it. You were really worked up.
Yeah, I don't remember most of that.
And so, yeah, I think that it was just fear. Like you feel like you're going to die and they're telling you you're okay. And you knew, that was not the case. Right. But so, yeah. And then that's how he was able to run to the ambulance is because it was a panic attack.
Yeah, I think probably even where the EMT guy's like, well, his heart must be fine. Dude just sprinted to the ambulance.
I remember them following you.
Where are we going?
To the ambulance. So, yeah, I'm sure they had an inkling. I'm sure not many people who are having a heart attack run to the ambulance.
Remember, at this point, I'm a professional patient. So.
That's true. Yeah. You knew what to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that had happened. But then we leave that experience.
Go home eventually. Yeah.
Yep, and go home. And do you remember what the next day was like for you? I have some memories, but I just want to see what your experience was.
I don't have a memory of that. No, I have a memory of when we get to this next point where we went to a therapy session, counseling session. I have obviously know what happens that next day. So fill me in.
Yeah. So you were extremely drained the next day. You slept for a very, very, very long time.
Every time that I've had those attacks or episodes, like I always call them, I always refer to it as you feel like you've ran a marathon. In the next 2 to 3 days, literally as almost like laying in bed, trying to get energy to get up to even use the bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, it really drained you.
Yeah.
And that was clear. So it definitely, not just the mental toll, but the physical toll was evident there.
Yeah, and the curtain was kind of dropped that night. There was no more hiding it from you at all. That's when you finally said, "All right, let's have a conversation because I think there's more going on here than."
Yeah. Like I understand that you're very scared, and that's absolutely reasonable.
Yeah. So then from June 13th, you and my mother both started talking to me about getting back into therapy because at this point I hadn't been in therapy for years and years.
And a friend of ours. There was multiple people, which I don't know if you know that. But yeah, like a friend of yours that we worked with at the time also like came to me and was like, I'm really worried about him.
Yeah.
He really needs to see somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from June 13th to August 11th?
Yes.
Is
August 11th.
So that gap in my mind kind of goes quick. I'm still kind of putting my shield up. But you're starting to see the truth. So now you're asking me better questions and more questions, and you're helping me a lot. So I finally say, hey, you guys want me to go to a counselor? Let's go to a counselor. And I didn't want to.
It was begrudgingly.
Oh, yeah, I did not want to at all. And we were just going to simply just go see a counselor who had helped people with trauma in the state of Iowa and has helped a ton of people with their trauma.
Yep, has made a huge difference in many, many people's lives, many people who have survived trauma.
Right, and we've talked to a lot of people of survivors that he's gone through, and he's a great guy. But, when it comes to counseling and therapy, there's a match that's got to happen between the person receiving the help and the person giving help.
Yeah.
And I felt like the day we went in, it was kind of rushed. And again, I'm not putting all blame on the therapist, but I went there. You came with me. And he just, about the time we met him, we sat down and he started to have me close my eyes and relive. He wanted me to go all the way back to the very first incident and close my eyes and to talk about what I went through. And I didn't get through the first call, I think, and I'm bawling during this.
Yeah. We hadn't been there very long and we dove in pretty deep, fast. Pretty quick. But again, I think this also kind of goes back to this provider and you weren't a great match. But usually there's a process of getting to know the person, and their experiences and kind of how they help people. So I don't want to say that this is a typical experience, I guess.
I felt like me not even knowing a lot about therapy, I felt like it was going to be more like, well, I'd go in there and he'd slowly peel the onion, and it was like he put the onion on the damn table and hit it with a sledgehammer, and it broke me. I mean, I literally, you saw life leave my face that day. I was bawling unconditionally. I couldn't even get through the beginning of it.
Yeah, it just got to a point where Daniel was just like, I need to leave now.
I was on the verge of another panic attack.
I need to leave. Yeah, we need to be done.
But one thing that happened that day, regardless of what you say about it, that day changed my life for the better. Granted, that therapy session wasn't the greatest. In fact, when we left there, we stopped the counseling session. We took a break for a little bit, and then we came back. We tried it again, and I just couldn't do it. I could not get through it. So we left there, and I left there agitated.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be real. I was agitated, and I was scared to death. And if I remember right, I had you drive.
Yep.
And I got in the passenger seat, and I felt lifeless. Everything had I felt like every scab just got ripped and open, and I was just sitting there bleeding out.
You were different.
Yeah, I think I probably even got quiet. And when I got in that car, I thought to myself, all right, it's time to kill myself. Oh,
wow, you knew that early.
As soon as I left the building, it was already playing in my mind of, I came for counseling, it didn't work. This guy was supposed to help me. Everybody said he would help me. People helped him. He helped so many people, and I didn't make it 20 minutes. And I walked out of there thinking, okay, I am obviously so broken that I'm not going to be able to do this. So I'd already at that point, the thought of taking my life, even though you and I had just got together and we were planning on living our life together.
Yeah, full disclosure. Let's see, that was August. So yeah, we were in a very committed relationship at the time, and you would soon be proposing to me.
Yeah. So we leave that appointment, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can't do this. I've got 3 kids. I already had one family. I went through a divorce. To the thought of bringing you and your 2 children that you have into a relationship and into my life, I just felt like I can't do that because I'm just going to ruin you guys as well, because that's how little I thought of myself. And so I went home. We drove home, and I don't remember all the details of that night.
I asked you questions because I was worried. I was really worried about you, and I was afraid that you were going to take your life. And so I asked you about that. And I mean, honestly, you were telling me what you thought I wanted to hear, which was that you were fine. Like, you weren't fine, but you weren't a danger to yourself. And I didn't know what else to do besides take you at your word, because I felt like I didn't really have another choice. Yeah.
So that night I didn't sleep, that I remember anyway. I don't remember sleeping. I just remember if I wasn't crying out loud, I was crying inside. And the next day I went to work. I usually went to work about an hour and a half earlier than you did because of our schedule. So I headed down to work, got there at 6 a.m. and sat in my office and cried. And shook, just uncontrollably shook and cried. And I made a decision right then and there, sitting at my desk, that today was the day I was going to die. And around that time, my boss came in, and my boss knew about my PTSD, and he knew about my past. And he saw me sitting in the office, and he said, "Hey, why don't you get out of here for the day?" And what he didn't know was I was planning on leaving anyway. I was just waiting for him to get there so I could tell him. And then I was going to drive by Lake Aquabi, where I was going to kill myself.
Well, not by Lake Aquab. That came later, but you were planning on wrecking your car.
Right. But the place where I was going to wreck my car was very close to Aquabi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Very close.
Yeah.
So I left work that day with the full intention of I'm going to kill myself on the way home.
And do you remember this? Because there's, from where we lived at the time to where we were working at the time, there's 2 routes a person can take. And you didn't tell me which route you were taking. You did let me know that you were coming home. And so I knew that you were going to be headed back and I needed to head to work. But you didn't share which way you were going to take. And I just took a route, feeling like that was going to be the one. And sure enough, I came around a corner and you were parked there waiting for me. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was parked there waiting. I don't even know what I was waiting for. I was just parked there. I knew what I was about to do, and I just stopped short of it.
You said you wanted a hug.
Oh, I was saying goodbye.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that.
Yeah. I remember you pulling up and
we hugged for a really long time.
Yeah. And I wasn't in a good place.
Yeah.
And I remember you asking if you should come back home with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said no.
Yeah.
And I got my car and went north.
Yeah.
Because it's about a half hour to 40-minute drive from our house to work. And so after I left you went to work and I went north. And as I was driving to where I was going to kill myself, for the first time in my life, as I was approaching that area, I felt the presence of God that I never felt in my life. And I know some people aren't believers and this might sound weird or crazy to them, because honestly it'd probably sound weird and crazy to me if I hadn't gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt the presence of God, is the only way I can say it, come into the car. And as I'm approaching, if I continue straight, I'm going to be going to where I'm killing myself. And then the lake's right off to the west of where I was at. And I just felt God saying, turn here, turn to the Lake of Quabi. So I turned, I went into the lake, drove down by the water, and I'm bawling at this point because I don't understand why God wants me to come to the lake and talk to him, because we're going to be talking in face to face here real shortly.
Mm-hmm.
So literally I was kind of annoyed, like, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like almost I couldn't ignore it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So I followed it. I got out of my car and I'm sobbing. And I remember falling to my knees. And there's people there walking around the lake. I'm sure they thought I was crazy, but I don't care. I remember just getting on my knees and sobbing. And at that moment, God showed, sorry, I'm probably going to get emotional.
Yeah, that's okay.
We said we were going to talk about happy stuff.
This is happy, but
it's
really happy things are emotional.
Yeah, because this was the breaking point. Right?
Yeah.
So as I'm sitting there, I see God, or God shows me a vision of me. Oh, I think it was me, sitting in a jet tub, a bathtub at the house I used to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to sit in there all the time in just my underwear with my pistol, pill bottle, and alcohol, trying to get the courage to take my own life. And I wanted to do it in the bathtub so it wouldn't make a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, as I was sitting there on my knees, and I see this vision of a first responder, I think it's me, sitting in the jet tub. And he's got all the same stuff, the pill bottles, the gun, up to his head. And right then and there, it's like in this vision, because I've seen this vision, which I've never had visions before. So again, I know this sounds crazy, and I was a non-believer, so this is like a road to Damascus moment for me.
Yeah.
He showed the vision, and in the vision, I put my arm on the shoulder of the person, and when he turns around, it wasn't me. It was another first responder. And right then and there, God said that he was going to put put purpose to my pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that he wanted me to start an organization called the 1042 Project to help first responders that were struggling, that were in the same types of place I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was to use my voice and to use at this point, I didn't know what he was talking about, but we were to use our voice and our cameras and everything to go out and show the world what help is and what it looks like. And not in a cocky way, just literally using our voice and our cameras and to travel the country and just show first responders and let them have a voice to tell their story so they can be heard and understood. And so other first responders at home that are suffering don't have to suffer alone anymore. Mm-hmm. And at this time, I'm thinking, God, I can't do this. I'm on my way to kill myself. You're asking me to start this organization of stuff I don't know. Number one, I don't know how to do. I don't have any of these skills to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I felt a sense of peace come over me that I'd never felt in my life. Mm-hmm. Never. I mean, I went from bawling to crying to a sense of euphoria, and that just ran through my body.
Yeah.
And I asked God to accept me, and I asked forgiveness for my sins.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood up, and I have never been the same since.
Mm-hmm.
I have never been the same since. The thought of killing myself was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was it gone, it was so far out of my mind. This mission that he put me on, I was going to do anything I can to follow that out. And it hasn't been easy because, again, I didn't feel like I was prepared for this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think, surely you can't be talking to me,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what our God does. He uses broken people. He is a redeemer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that then, but I got to feel it. And I've got to feel it ever since. And that day, it was, I think you came home. Did I tell you right away?
I think it was just like later that night through conversation, but it wasn't like the moment that I walked in the door.
Yeah.
But you told me that night.
I'm telling you this. And then I remember you saying, wow. And then you said,
I was like, it's funny that you say that, because, and there was something I hadn't told Daniel, when we left the counseling appointment that didn't go very well for him. When I closed the door behind us, like it was as my hand left the door, I had a vision as well. Again, this isn't common for us, which is why I did not say anything to Daniel, because I was like, okay, there's no way to say that for it to sound normal. So I'm just going to keep that to myself. But anyway, I saw a vision of Daniel on a stage talking to people. I didn't know who they were or even what this meant. I just saw it. And then I saw him off to the side talking to people, more like one-on-one or a small group of people, just talking with them. And I didn't know what that meant. And it was unexpected. So I didn't share it with him because it felt kind of out of place at the time when it first happened to me. And so, yeah, but then when you came home and shared that, I was like, that kind of matches, like, okay, what I saw makes a little more sense now. So then I shared that with you, and it just felt like it was kind of confirmation for each of us of what the other one had saw, and that it was such a unique experience for both of us as well. So yeah, that was a really special moment, and we just kind of hit the ground running from there. Really, we went back to get the dates. So we had, specific dates. So, Daniel's vision at Lake Aquabi was August 12th. And by August 21st, we had purchased the 1042 website domain. So just 9 days later, it moved rather quickly. And then this is where Daniel and I's differences start to shine, because he's very like, let's go. And I am plan. And so we're a good team in that way. You make sure we move forward, and then I make sure that we are planning.
And let's go back to the Bible app real quick.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That little nugget we dropped at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that day at the lake, when I get up and I get back in my car, that Bible app that I downloaded to impress a girl became my lifeline. I opened the Bible app, and this could be hard. There was a preacher in there in one of the plans, and his name was Craig Rochelle. And throughout learning the Bible app and going through it, I learned about this man named Craig Rochelle, who's a pastor. And when he talked, his words just hit me different. Mm-hmm. And from that day, that Bible app helped for me to discover how God identified me and the truth of what my purpose is. Mm-hmm. And not only did that Bible app do that, that pastor that was talking to me in that, Craig Rochelle, is now our pastor today. Mm-hmm. I started following them online, listening to all the sermons, went back and listened to every sermon the man's done that I could find online, and every book. And I was not a reader at the time, and I still don't read. I do audiobooks, but I went and listened to everything. And I started on the Bible app, started to find other preachers on there because it's not just him. It's all types of different people.
Yeah.
And I started to find out these other pastors that were out there and listening to their sermons. And I signed up for Craig Rochelle's leadership podcast. I love leadership, and he has the most popular leadership podcast in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I started following that. And then one day we got an email that Life Church would be planting a church in Des Moines, and they wanted to know if we wanted to be part of the church plant.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing that and running out of the room or wherever I was to tell you.
Yeah, you freaked out.
You called it fanboying.
He absolutely was fanboying. He was like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I have to reread it. You read it. Am I reading it right?
Yeah. So we took him up on that offer, and they flew up here, and there was a meeting that they had with a bunch of people up here, and we helped get the church launched. And now it's been one of the most amazing parts of my life is my church, my pastor, and the friends and the fellowship and everything that we have there.
Mm-hmm. Our church family.
And I just completely got reformed, and now I was around the people who I wanted to be around.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know it all these years.
Mm-hmm.
The people that would help push me, the people that would help feed life into me, the people that would help, gather around and pray for me when I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I found all of that
without
there.
judging. I feel like,
Yeah.
As you got to the point where you were sharing your story with people, when they found out your story, you were never met with judgment, or anything like that. It was all positive. Like, wow, thank you for what you did and what you went through. And
yeah, I've never been treated with that much love.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, the friends that we have there and the community we have. But it all started with that little app that I downloaded to impress her that ended up helping to completely change my life.
That little seed.
God is good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how my journey began, and this is how I found purpose in life. And we'll go into that, throughout other episodes and stuff. But I just really wanted people to know that that's what it was for me. I was trying to find purpose all on my own, and it wasn't through me that I found my purpose. And I think a lot of people at home are struggling with purpose right now.
Yeah.
And I want to let them know that you do have a purpose, and it is greater than you know, and that God will put purpose to your pain. My story's not unique. It's not like God only does this for me. Hello.
Yeah.
If anything, I should have been the last person He'd done it for.
Mm-hmm.
But He has a plan and a purpose for everybody listening.
Yeah. You were made on purpose for a purpose.
That's right. And we are a faith-based organization because how could we not? It was through God that transformed us.
Mm-hmm.
That
you wouldn't be here today.
I wouldn't be here today. I'd be in a grave.
Yeah.
And only through the grace of God. And I just am excited to share that with people as we go further into these episodes down the road. I'm just excited to share what true life looks like.
Yeah. And just other stories of hope.
Yeah. Let's close this out. I'm out of tears.
Okay.
And we've gone 38 minutes. We normally try to keep these around 20, 25 minutes, but here we are.
Yeah.
So close this out, my love.
Lots of good stuff to share. But thank you again.
Yeah.
For being willing to share that with everybody. And thank you for spending time with us and listening to our conversations, listening to Daniel's story. I hope that some part of it resonated with you and that you're encouraged and hopeful by it. And I just ask that you would be willing to like, comment, or share this episode or this podcast. There's a lot of stuff that we talked about that will resonate with a lot of people, not just first responders, because first responders have family members, children, friends. It extends to so many people, right? People you wouldn't even think. We run into that all the time. So again, I just ask that you go out on a limb and just share this episode or share this podcast and trust that it'll reach the person or the people that need to hear it. And we're just so grateful for your support and your time. And thank you so much. We'll catch you in the next episode.